Life is full of surprises and changes, especially when it comes to family. Our family seemed perfect, at least at first glance. My name is Lisa, I'm 45 years old, and I've been married to David for many years. We have a 24-year-old daughter, Hannah, a smart and ambitious college student who lives with us to avoid accumulating student debt. We live in the suburbs, in a cozy house where everything is arranged to our taste. David drives an old Chevy Silverado truck, while Hannah and I prefer more comfortable cars. Financial difficulties are present, but we manage. After Hannah went to college, I started feeling distant from my family. We used to spend a lot of time together, but now my energy and interest in family life have waned. One evening, sitting on the couch, David decided to talk to me about our relationship. "Lisa, do you feel happy?" he asked, trying to be as careful as possible. "Happy with what?" I replied, not looking up from my book. "Happy with our life. I've noticed that you've been distant from me. It feels like we've lost the connection we used to have." I sighed and put the book aside. "David, I have no complaints. Why do you ask? I just want you to be happy. Maybe you should see a counselor or a coach to sort out your feelings and find balance." I nodded and pondered his words. A few weeks later, I started seeing a life coach. Hoping it would help me understand myself better, I continued working on myself, but our relationship remained the same. A few weeks had passed since our conversation, and I noticed that David had become more tense. He started paying more attention to our relationship than usual. I tried to act normal, but it was hard to hide my distance. Sometimes I caught his gaze, full of doubt and concern. One evening after dinner, David decided to talk again. "Lisa, can we talk?" His voice was gentle, but there was insistence in it. "About what?" I asked, clearing the dishes. "About us. I feel like you're becoming more distant. You're not even trying to hide it. What's going on?" I sighed and sat down across from him at the table. "David, I don't know what to say. Maybe it's just a phase we need to get through." He frowned and shook his head. "A phase? Lisa, I love you and want you to be happy, but it feels like you're losing interest in me. You started seeing a coach, and that's good, but..." "But what?" I interrupted him. "You think it's my fault?" "I'm not blaming you. I just want to understand what's happening and how we can fix it." I was silent, not knowing what to say. The visits to the coach were helping me sort out my feelings, but I couldn't explain them to David. It seemed like each visit only deepened my doubts about our relationship. David sighed and got up from the table. "I just want you to know that I'm here for you. If you need time or space, tell me. I don't want to lose you." He went to his workshop, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I knew he was right. I was indeed losing interest in our relationship, but I couldn't understand why. Maybe the coach could help me figure it out. But I also knew that David was becoming more and more suspicious. His concern grew with each passing day, and I didn't know how to fix it. Each session with the coach, Jack, gave me a sense of freedom that I had long lost. Jack was attentive, supportive, and, importantly, flirted with me. I enjoyed his open flirting, which restored my confidence. When we said goodbye, he would hug me tightly, his hand dropping to my buttocks, and I didn't mind. It made me feel young again, like before I married David. We would kiss each other on the cheek goodbye in a friendly way, but at the last session, something unexpected happened. Our lips accidentally met, and I felt my knees go weak. Excitement and passion flared up inside me, and I quickly pushed those thoughts away. I didn't expect what would happen next. In this session with Jack, I felt particularly relaxed. We decided to have some wine to ease the tension. I didn't quite understand how it happened, but when Jack sat closer to me and said he wanted to introduce something new to our therapy, I didn't resist. He kissed me, sliding his hand under my dress and squeezing my buttocks hard. My head spun, and I lost track of my actions. At that very moment, Hannah decided to visit me to ask for some cash to urgently pay for her tuition. She knocked on the office door and, not waiting for a response, entered. What she saw was horrifying. Jack was standing with his back to the door, completely naked and holding my spread legs. "Mom!" she exclaimed in shock, and immediately ran out of the office, slamming the door shut. I froze in horror, not knowing how to handle the situation. This was the worst possible outcome I could have imagined. My heart was pounding, and I tried to figure out what to do next. When Hannah ran out of the office, I hurried after her, pulling my dress on as I went. I found her in the hallway, trembling with anger and shock. "Hannah, please wait!" I caught up to her and grabbed her hand. "You don't understand what's happening." "Mom, what was that?" Her eyes were full of tears. "How could you?" "I know, it's terrible, but please don't tell David, I'm begging you." Hannah was silent for a few seconds, considering the situation. Then her expression changed, and a cruel smirk appeared on her face. "Don't tell? Fine, Mom, I won't say anything. But I have one condition." "What?" I felt my heart pounding again. "I need a new car. You know which one I like. If you buy it for me, I won't say anything." I felt my world collapsing around me. All my savings would go towards fulfilling this terrible demand. But I had no other choice. "All right, Hannah, I'll buy you the car. Just please, don't tell your father." She nodded, satisfied with her awful blackmail, and we went home, each lost in our own thoughts. I knew this secret was tearing my family apart, but I was willing to do anything to keep it hidden. A few days had passed since Hannah saw me with Jack. I thought everything had settled down and my secret would remain hidden. However, one evening, while I was talking to Hannah in the kitchen, David accidentally overheard our conversation. "Mom, I want to remind you that if you don't buy me the car soon, I'll tell Dad everything I saw and what you two were doing on the coach's table," Hannah said quietly, but loud enough for David to hear from the next room. I sighed and began pleading with her again. "Hannah, please don't do that. I will buy you the car soon, I promise. Just give me a little more time." "You better hurry," Hannah replied, then left the kitchen. David, standing in the hallway and pretending to look for something on the shelf, heard our entire conversation. His face showed mixed feelings, suspicion, and concern. He didn't approach me or ask any questions, but I could see that he was thinking and starting to figure out how to find out the truth. In the following days, I noticed that David became even more attentive to our conversations with Hannah. He often asked indirect questions and tried to figure out what was going on. I tried to keep my composure and not give away our secret, but it was becoming increasingly difficult each day. David grew more suspicious that Hannah was helping me hide something important. He started spending more time at home, trying to understand what was really happening. David felt his suspicions grow with each passing day. He could no longer just stand by and watch. His suspicions of Lisa's infidelity and her connection with Hannah became unbearable. He decided to act cold-bloodedly and gather all possible evidence to find out the truth. David hired 3 private detectives. Their task was to follow Lisa, Hannah, and her boyfriend, Tom. He wanted to know everything: where they go, who they meet, and what they are hiding. The first detective was assigned to follow Lisa and her visits to Coach Jack. One day, the detective managed to eavesdrop on their session using a professional recorder that could capture sound even through walls. He recorded sounds that confirmed David's worst suspicions. The recording captured Lisa's loud moans and her words. "Harder, faster, spank me." The second detective followed Tom. He gathered evidence of Tom's infidelities. Tom often met with other women, and these meetings left no doubt about his unfaithfulness. The third detective simply observed Hannah, monitoring her daily life and behavior. He tried to understand how deeply she was involved in her mother's and Tom's secrets. David collected all the evidence and began to think about how to use it. He knew that the truth would come out sooner or later, and he had to be ready for that moment. His heart was full of anger and determination. He knew that soon it would be time to act. The day of my birthday arrived, and David returned home, preparing for the decisive confrontation. He organized a family dinner where everyone gathered: me, Hannah, and Tom. We sat at the table, the atmosphere tense, but none of us suspected what was about to happen. "Thank you all for coming," David began, raising his glass. "Today, I want to talk about something important." He paused and looked at us. There was determination in his eyes. "Tom, you've been dating Hannah for a while now, and I always considered you part of our family. But unfortunately, I've learned that you haven't been honest with her." Tom turned pale, and Hannah froze, not understanding what was happening. "David, what do you mean?" I asked, feeling a rising anxiety inside. "I have evidence that Tom has been cheating on Hannah," David continued, pulling out photos and recordings gathered by the detectives. He laid them out on the table, and everyone saw the pictures of Tom with other women. "That's not true!" Tom exclaimed, but his voice was shaking. Hannah, seeing the evidence of Tom's infidelity, couldn't contain her emotions. She grabbed her glass of wine and, without thinking, threw it in Tom's face. His face turned pale, and Hannah ran out of the room in tears, unable to bear it all. "Lisa, wait!" Tom shouted and tried to follow her, but David grabbed his arm. "You're no longer welcome in our house," David said firmly. Tom froze in place, realizing that his betrayal had been exposed and he was no longer welcome in our home. David turned to me, and I felt my heart stop. "Lisa, our relationship can no longer continue. I know about your affair with Jack. I know everything." I couldn't believe my ears. My secret was out. I looked at Hannah, and suspicion reflected in my eyes. Did she tell her father the truth? "These are divorce papers. I can no longer live in this lie. I have a recording from the dictaphone. If you want, I can let you listen to it. It might be my birthday gift to you." He laughed at the absurdity of the situation, but his eyes were full of sadness. My hands were trembling as I took the envelope. I knew this moment would come, but I didn't expect it to happen like this. After all the secrets were revealed, David decided to take decisive action. He could no longer tolerate betrayal and lies. That same night, while Hannah and Lisa retreated to their rooms to deal with the emotional turmoil, David began preparing for the next step. In the morning, when Hannah and Lisa woke up, they were met with unpleasant surprises. David had packed all their belongings into boxes. The cars that were once their pride were parked at the curb with the keys in the ignition. "Pack your things and leave," David said as they came downstairs. "You no longer live here." Hannah and Lisa were in shock, but understood that arguing was pointless. They started gathering their things, their eyes full of tears. "But where will we go?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "That's your problem," David replied coldly. "I'm no longer taking care of you." When Hannah tried to use her credit card to pay for a hotel, she found that the card was blocked. David had blocked all their credit cards and phones, leaving them without means to sustain themselves. He also placed a "for sale" sign in the front yard. The house they once called their home was now up for sale. Lisa and Hannah stood in front of the house, realizing their world had fallen apart. "We deserved this," Lisa said quietly, hugging Hannah. "Now we have to start all over again." They loaded their things into the cars and drove away, not looking back. David stood on the doorstep, watching them leave. He knew he had done the right thing, but his heart was full of pain and disappointment. These events left deep scars in their lives. Lisa and Hannah were forced to find new ways to start their lives over. David, despite his toughness, also faced the consequences of his actions. They all began to understand that revenge comes with a price. After Lisa and Hannah left, David felt a sense of relief, but also an emptiness inside. He decided to start a new life away from the memories of the past. David rented a small apartment in the city center where no one knew his story. He tried to leave all the bad behind and focus on the future. However, the new life was not as easy as he had hoped. His relationships with colleagues at work began to deteriorate. He started avoiding social interactions, skipped corporate events, and quickly turned into a recluse. His friends tried to support him, but David pushed them away, preferring solitude. Every evening, he spent in his apartment, filling his time with reading books or watching TV. At first, it helped, but with each passing day, he felt more lonely and desolate. David realized that his past was still haunting him. One evening, when David returned home from work, he found a letter in his mailbox. It was from Hannah. He stared at the envelope for a long time, hesitant to open it. Finally, his curiosity got the better of him, and he opened the letter. "Dear Dad, I know we've made many mistakes, and I want to apologize for everything that happened. I want to meet with you and try to mend our relationship. Please give me a chance to explain and fix what can be fixed. Love, Hannah." David didn't know what to think. His heart was full of conflicting emotions. He sat for a long time, holding the letter, contemplating whether to give Hannah a second chance. It took several days before he decided to respond. He understood that if he didn't try to mend his relationship with his daughter now, he might never be able to do it. Finally, he wrote a reply, agreeing to the meeting. On the day of the meeting, David arrived at the cafe a little early, nervous and unsure of what to expect. Hannah arrived on time, and when she walked in, David noticed how much she had changed. Her eyes were full of remorse and fear. They sat at a table, and for a while, there was an awkward silence. "Dad, I'm so glad you agreed to meet," Hannah began, her voice trembling. "I want to apologize for everything that happened. I know I made many mistakes and caused you a lot of pain." David looked at her, feeling his heart soften. He realized that she was genuinely remorseful. "Hannah, I wasn't perfect either. We all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them and move forward," he replied gently. Hannah sighed and looked at her father, with tears in her eyes. "Dad, there's something else you need to know. I blackmailed Mom," she confessed. "I tried to hide her awful affair because I didn't want to destroy our family. I also wanted to teach her a lesson for what she did. I know it was wrong, and I'm really sorry." David was silent for a long time, processing what he had heard. He understood that Hannah had acted wrongly, but he also saw her sincere remorse. "I understand that you were trying to protect our family, even if your methods were wrong," he finally said. "You're my daughter, and despite everything that happened, I love you. Let's try to start over." They talked for a long time, discussing everything that had happened and how each of them felt during that period. Hannah shared how much she struggled with the family breakup and how it affected her life. David realized that she had truly changed and was ready to work on rebuilding their relationship. At the end of the meeting, David suggested they spend her birthday together. Hannah gladly agreed, and they started planning the day. Hannah's birthday arrived, and they gathered at David's home. He prepared her favorite meal, and they spent the evening reminiscing about old times and making plans for the future. It was the first step toward mending their relationship, and David felt that their family had a chance at a new beginning. Several months had passed since David and Hannah began rebuilding their relationship. They often met, spent time together, and tried to forget about the past. During these meetings, they discussed many things, including the mistakes each of them had made and the lessons they had learned. David realized that his harshness and desire for revenge did not make him happy. He understood that forgiveness and understanding were much more important for inner peace. Thanks to these meetings, he became more open and learned to better understand the feelings of others. Lisa, left alone, also rethought many things. She realized how much her actions had affected her family and how she had destroyed the trust that had been built over the years. She spent a lot of time reflecting on her mistakes and trying to find a way to fix her life. Her meetings with Hannah helped her realize that she could still be part of the family if she was honest and sincere. Hannah, in turn, learned lessons from her role in this crisis. She understood that blackmail and secrecy would never lead to good results. She started working on being more open and honest in her relationships, both with her family and friends. David's life saw new changes. He met Laura, a woman with whom he quickly found a common language. Laura was kind and understanding, and she helped David find the joy and happiness he had been missing. Their relationship developed, and David felt that he had finally found peace and harmony. Lisa also started a new life. She found a job that brought her satisfaction and tried to build her relationship with Hannah on trust and respect. They often met, and each meeting strengthened their bond. Each of them began a new chapter in their lives, learning lessons from their past mistakes. They understood that the past could not be changed, but one could learn from it and become better.